financial services institutions, banks, investment firms located in the UK take advantage of passports to passport their services to other EU member states and customers in other EU member states. And you've got the MiFID passport for investment services, which is wholesale and retail, and the wholesale and the CRD passport, which is about banking, which is wholesale and retail. So, what would happen if we were to leave? Well, at the moment, there is no provision for financial services institutions to access the single market in the same way as they do today from the UK outside of the EU. Norway does it up to a point. Financial services in Norway can, in principle, access the single market in all areas. But in financial services, it's run into a glitch because since 2010, we've invented the European Banking Authority, the European Securities and Markets Authority, the so-called ESAs, the European Supervisory Authorities, and the EEA agreement, which was signed in '92, doesn't provide for that because they supervise certain things directly. So things like MiFID, things like CRD4 haven't quite been applied as far as Norwegian firms are concerned. So how do you access financial services? How do UK entities access the single market after Brexit? Well, you can go for the EEA option, and that's been discussed. As I've mentioned, that's breaking down somewhat. You risk becoming a rule taker, and you don't have a vote on the rules. And then you have four other options. You have Turkey, you have Switzerland, you have an FTA, and you have the WTO. If you're marketing goods, those four options have distinguishing factors that make each of the options interesting. From a financial services perspective, they could all pretty much be the same thing as far as financial services are concerned in reality. If you look at the GATS, the General Agreement on Trade and Services, and you look at what it covers for financial services, it's actually a very, very short list of stuff. You've got insurance of risks relating to shipping, commercial aviation, space launch and freight, reinsurance and retrocession, services auxiliary to insurance, transfer of financial information, financial data processing, and advisory and other auxiliary services. So no cross-border or indeed freedom of establishment, so mode 1 or mode 3, no cross-border or establishment rights for banks to provide services in wholesale, retail or banking. It's a very, very short list. And then if you look at a free trade agreement, if you look at one of the shiny new free trade agreements, for example, the Canadian-EU trade agreement, and you look at the chapter on financial services, and you'll find pretty much exactly the same list. Free trade agreements are very good for goods, but when it comes to financial services, they follow the GATS sort of structure very, very closely. And they also have something called the prudential carve-out, and that is the right to regulate your own financial markets. So in financial services, there's not a huge amount you can do, but is all lost? Well, the answer is no, because the EU, being novel itself, is actually doing some quite novel things. It's established a system of so-called third country equivalents. So if the Commission, the European supervisory authorities, etc., and this is going to come in 2018 for MiFID, so for wholesale investment services. And that covers a lot of the activities that happen in the UK. If the EU deems a third country, i.e. a non-EU country, equivalent, so good enough prudential conduct of business, etc., regulations, then they can deem that country equivalent and you can do cross-border in from that third country into the EU. That's unprecedented, it's quite novel, and we would have to see how that pans out.